basically single player action role playing. Yeah, portaplay is the developer. But it's set during World War II. I think in what is it, Denmark?
Yes, I think it was in Denmark, and
yeah.
The interesting part about it is that it's not about people who were fighting in the war or anything like that. It's a small scale. Just this girl is just trying to survive. That she is living in World War II, and everybody in this village.
Well, she's a nurse.
True.
Yeah.
And so it's supposed to be like this small scale, like, who are the civilians and how are they dealing with it? What kind of choices do they need to make? And one thing they told us, and I don't know if if we're allowed to like repeat what they said, so I'm just gonna say like they have a very strong moral dilemma early in the game of what they should choose. You can do something that most players, I think, would be like, ew, absolutely not. Just ugh. Just straight up not do it. But then later, because you didn't do it, you might have a harder time.
Here, scroll down for a little bit. I wanted to read what they said. Yeah, because I think that... Because for those who don't know, Denmark was occupied by the Nazis at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So...
A Danish. Oops.
Yeah.
Danish village.
Yeah?
Is that... Oh, Denmark, Danish. Okay, never mind. Just kidding. I was seeing if you guys knew.
Is it Denmark?
Yeah, it's Danishish.
Danishish?
Yeah. It's Denmarkish.
Yeah. So I don't know. It looked interesting because basically, I think that what Danish, like from Daneland.
Yeah, from Daneland. Duh.
But kind of where you can see like the Dontnod stamp on this, I think, or like why they would be drawn to publish this game from Portaplay is that it has that same type of like you will have hard choices have consequences, and rather than like fighting your way through these different scenarios, it's like, okay, but how did because yeah, there were plenty of resistance fighters and whatnot,
mm-hmm.
like civilians who ended up like turning to the resistance, things like that. But what about everybody else? What about everybody who was
just trying to survive the winter and have enough food?
Yeah.
Because armies traditionally just take everybody's food and just walk off with it. And how are they going to survive just, supply lines being blocked, people taking your stuff just because they need it? Having enough medicine.
Mm-hmm. Or if your village is occupied, now you might be faced with choices about the people who are occupying your village and how do you interact with them,
and should you suck up to them?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in the game. This is just something that comes up. But every dilemma is challenging and every decision critical in times of turmoil such as war. So one thing I really liked when they were showing us the game is that it kind of looks like an upscaled retro game. And they told us the reason they did that is because the themes are so dark that if they made it realistic looking, it would just be so overwhelmingly depressing.
Yeah.
So they needed to make it look less realistic because the themes are really hard and realistic and difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be interesting because not to glamorize surviving a war or anything, but it would be nice to know the perspective on life other than from watching Band of Brothers or any sort of war movie where they're glorifying the war, whether you believe in that or not. But it would be good to understand the emotional impact of just people, because I feel that at least for me who lives in the United States, I've never lived in occupied wartime other than, the gangs. But that's different. I've never had to, for a long period of time, survive living in a war zone and what that means. And maybe that would be a valuable way for me to see the world in terms of the United States going to war and understanding what that means for the country that's happening there.
Oh, thank you, Comedy Life 25, for the bits. I would also, I think it's also always interesting to see games that take away the power from the player, because, like, obviously the power move, like, or to give the player the most agency, you know, you pick up a gun, you join the resistance, you fight back, like, you're doing things. What about if you can't?
Yeah.
You know, or if that's just not an option
or
for you.
What if you're a little baby?
Yeah.
What if you're a scaredy baby like me? I wouldn't. I'd just be like, okay, yeah. Like, I know that. I'm not brave.
Did you guys in the U.S. study World War II in real depth, like what life was like during occupied times?
I went to private school, and they just told us that we're terrible people in everything.
Also keep in mind, like, for me, high school was like 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So
I'm going to assume no.
I don't remember a fucking thing.
I'm going to assume no, because logistically, this is a country that relies on war to maintain its power.
No, I mean, I remember we learned about it. We learned about all the dates, main battles. We watched a bunch of movies that had to do with World War II. But I feel like most of it focuses on,
Soldiers.
at least, most of it focused on, like, the Holocaust. Like, specifically what that was like for Jewish people and other people who were in the camps, as opposed to other occupied countries. Like, I could not tell you what was happening in Russia at the time, because that wasn't really, like, the focus of, and you know, like, the Channel Islands, like, there were plenty of other places that had stuff going on in World War II, but I feel like most of our education really focused in on, like, you know, Schindler's List, that type of thing.
But I think to answer your question is, other than Jewish people, we did not learn a lot about just the everyday person who lived just existing in the war. All right. I found a trailer, so let's watch it together.
Yeah.
16.
I really like the top-down, like, it looks like a PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2 game. It feels soothing. It looks like a painting, kind of.
My dear wife, if you are reading this, it means our mission has been compromised.
Inspired by a true story. Okay.
I promised myself that I would never drag you into our affairs, but I must bend that promise. It is crucial to our cause that these papers are delivered to the Sparrow. I pray that you will continue to keep this war at arm's length, and that we might see each other again when it is over. Yours forever, Anders.
I really like the art style.
Yeah, me too. It feels nostalgic. Like, I know that's annoying to hear from people, but, like, it kind of looks like brush strokes, but at the same time old and pixely. Does that make sense? Like, if you look at this closer, it kind of looks like she's painted.
I pray that you will continue to keep this war at
Well,
arm's
so,
length.
you know what's interesting, though, is that so people are talking about, like, Europeans are talking about their experience learning about World War II. Where I'm from, the big thing that we learned about was the Salem witch trials.
Oh.
Because that was very close to where I grew up. So I learned a whole lot about that. Went to see, you know, like, you go on school trips there, like, all that sort of thing. So
I learned about
another very interesting time in history.
That guy who made a murder house.
Oh, H.H. Holmes?
Yeah, I learned about that guy.
Yeah.
And the Chicago World's Fair. And then they're like, hey, kids, I know you're in 7th grade, but you want to read this book? And I was like, oh, yeah, dude. Whoa. Ooh.
I feel like one of my favorite things to tell people about, like, super localized education is that when we were in kindergarten, we all learned how to make maple syrup. and I am obsessed with the stuff. So,
teaching kids early, huh? Get them addicted. For some reason, this game reminds me of Silent Hill, even though it doesn't have anything to do with anything with the Silent Hill. Ooh, I love how they do the glowy effect.
For those who are asking about House of Ashes, we might get back to that once we get back to like a regular streaming schedule. It's just been like the end of my work year was crazy.
So you can notice that they call her Flame in Winter, and she kind of looks like, she's got a red scarf on. Just something they pointed out to us, and I was like, all right, gotta say that. I like her outfit. I think it's cute as heck. But here it is on Steam. Planned release date 22. Add to your wish list if you want to.
Cute.
By Dontnod Entertainment. What else do we have to say about this? What else did they tell us?
That was pretty much what they told us, but I don't know. I just wanted to say thank you to them for like always keeping us in the loop. It's pretty cool. They told us that they only reached out to like a very small number of like international creators to take a look at it early. And it just like, you guys know, if you know our channel, you know that we've been covering their games since 2015 when we did the first Life is Strange. So,
and if any of you are thinking like, oh, they're being braggy. Yes. I don't have a lot to brag about. Let me have this. Okay? It makes me feel good. Oh, they're so braggy. And? Yeah. Because I think you're cool, and I want you to think I'm cool, and I'm going to share my accomplishments. Be proud of me.
I don't know how open versus linear the game is going to be. However, I would think that there's going to at least be some branching paths because choices matter and choices have consequences. And sometimes later down the line.
That was a big thing they were telling us.
Yeah.
Where in the choices where it seems like it's so clear what the morally right choice is, but because you're living in a time that is so difficult and so like you have to compromise your morals in order to survive, and like who are you going to trust, and are you going to... I can imagine a lot of people who live in today's world having a lot of struggles with choices that are going to come up in a game that takes place in a very different atmosphere. We're dealing with somebody who you consider to be a monster is just something you have to do. And you don't have the privilege or the ability or strength or power to be a moral person, because sometimes, in my opinion, being a moral person is a privilege that a lot of people don't realize is not possible for everybody.
And I also think that it's kind of like when people look at a situation and they're like, oh, well, and they look at how people reacted like in the moment, and they're like, oh, well, they should have done this, they should have done that, that would have been the right thing to do. But when you're actually in the situation, it feels a lot different. If somebody feels like they're in danger, like everybody has different reactions to that. And sometimes your reaction in that moment is not what you would have wanted it to be,
I think one way to explain this is that, like, in Red Dead Redemption, if you see a racist, you can just, like, shoot them in the head and run away. and be like, if I was in cowboy times, I'd kill racists. When in reality, probably most of us wouldn't. And in reality, most of us would have to put up with things that we wouldn't like. And we would have to just be kind of a shitty person. Like, that this game is not going to give you that. It's going to make you have to make choices that are going to be uncomfortable so that you can understand what it's like for somebody to really struggle. And I think that's cool, in my opinion.
So we're both excited to see it.
I'm excited to cry. Yeah, I'm excited to hate myself.
Yeah. So thank you again to Dontnod for showing that to us.
Yeah, thank you. Also, hello to... Oh, chat deleted by modern. Maybe that was a bad word. It was in Russian, so... In real life, I'm a coward and very tired all the time. I don't stand up for much. I imagine I'd do even worse job during World War II. Yeah. If you had asked me when I was 15, I'd be like, oh, I'd be a hero. I'd stand up. No. 32. I'm
tired.
I just die, honestly. People are like, what would you do in the apocalypse? I'd die.
Yeah, I feel, you know what it reminds me of on a very like small scale? It reminds me of like, you know, years ago on Twitter and on Tumblr when you and I would get into like actual like fights with people like who were being shitty and rude. Mm-hmm. Not like angry fights, but like
I was angry.
Like we would actually like defend ourselves though. Mm-hmm. Now I don't have the fucking energy.
Yeah, and I'd be like, fine. Yeah, okay.
I literally just ignore people or I block them and I'm just like I don't have the time to like waste on this. You know?
Yeah, back then I was like, how could you think that of me? And now I'm like, maybe I am a shit person.
Well, and it's like people would say shit and I would like feel the need to like jump into a conversation and argue with them and like blah, 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 blah. I was like so angry all the time. And now I look at that and I'm like, where did I get all that energy from? I don't have like, it's not even like energy like to do things. It's more like just mental, like, I don't know. I don't have any fucks left.
Thank you for the cheers, JDR42. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, no, I totally get you. That's the reason when I go on Twitter, I'm like, no, I'm only going to think about myself on here. And I just don't even read anything else. Because in 2020, I was like, I have to save the world with social media. And I was just like, I felt like nothing I did was helping, and I was just killing myself by putting this on me. And
you know, it's that whole thing of like, I remember when we used to talk about like, or at least I remember us talking about like, you know, we want to make a difference, blah 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 blah, and then it's like, I think at a certain point, if you're not taking care of your own like shit, you just start feeling like nothing you do makes a difference. And so then you just, I mean, like, I'll still, like, don't get me wrong, I still am happy to, like, help people and talk to them and, like, blah, 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 blah. I think it's just the, like, active fighting thing that is gone.
Well, I think, I used to think it's like, well, if I don't say something, nobody is, and I have to do it. It's my job to, and it's my responsibility to. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, I paid my dues. I did it. The next generation can fight. I'm tired.
Yeah, you know what? Parker Axia says, I feel like the pandemic definitely helped me get out of micro-arguing with people about dumb stuff.
I was wasting so much of my energy. This is the thing. It's like, it is good to fight for what you believe in and to stand up for other people.
Yeah.
But I was doing it to the point where I was using all of my energy on that and then not using energy on myself. Mm-hmm. So that I was just constantly stressed and way too overly invested in like internet fights.
Yeah.
And it was like I was using all of my mental energy for that. And then if I didn't do that, I would feel guilty, like I was letting the world down by doing that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, but if I keep doing this, I'm literally going to die. Because I'm so unhappy and I'm not taking care of myself. Mm-hmm. And I can't help anyone if I'm dead. So, no, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I can't even look because every once in a while when, like, before we record Dice Funk, Sophie from Dice Funk, hold on, I have to figure out their after I tell this story, will be like, here's a thing that happened. I'm like, so enraged! I get so enraged. I'm like, what do you mean? Oh my God, I have to do something about this. Just like hearing about it. And I'm just like, no, don't even hear about it. Like, cause you're gonna kill yourself.
You know what else kind of like really took that out of me was, I used to have a lot of disagreements with my boss. Mm-hmm. Not like about social issues. Well, actually sometimes about social issues. Like, I used to, like, argue with her, you know, because it's, like, sometimes, you know, she's older. So she would say stuff about social issues that I would just be kind of like, I'm sorry, what? You know, like, one infamous argument was that she was saying that anyone who had student loans was an idiot because you should only go to college if you could pay your way through it. if you could work while doing school and pay your whole tuition at the same time. And I was like, do you not understand the myriad ways in which that is impossible for like pretty much everybody now?
Everybody.
Everybody.
They literally make it's like a mortgage to a house. You just have to do it.
And I don't even want to get into it because it was this whole big thing. But like, and you know, I used to also get into arguments with her about, you know, strategy at work and like things that we were going to do. And then it's like at a certain point, I just kind of, I realized, I don't know, it's like, I didn't stop caring altogether, but it's like, I was like, you know what, if we're going to just argue about this and then we get to the end of it and I still have to just do whatever it is she's telling me, I'm just going to not bother with the arguing part and save myself a lot of mental energy.
It was Sophie from Mars. Just making sure I give the shout outs. Sophie from Mars. Cool person.
Yeah. She was on Pixel Skirt with us, right?
Yes. For
Cyberpunk.
Yes.
I worked all my 10 years through college and grad school, still got $80,000 in student loans. Yeah. Which, and that's another thing, is that I'm hoping that we can get back to Pixel Squirt episodes too. Mm-hmm. Now that I'll have more time. Those same people that say pay your way through school get mad when athletes get paid to play. Yeah. Well, and also, like, you know, that would mean that you're limiting so many people to, because it's like there are schools that are very cheap, but like her logic was just so weird because I was like, okay, so if you're going to take all of those people that have student loans, tell them to just go to a super cheap school, would you hire those people? Like, because, right, if she's the one of those people who's looking for people that go to a good school, like, that's the whole way that you get...
Rated T for teen.
Sorry. I was just opening things from the press kit.
No, this is just the teaser trailer.
I know, I'm just clicking through it, see if there's anything cooler. All right, continue.
But, like, that's the whole lure of getting someone to go to these super expensive schools, is that they get a degree that is either, you know, gives them the prestige to get a good job that pays well, or it gives you the skills that you need to get a good job that pays well. Combination of the two, something like that. And I'm just kind of like, do you really think that, like, you know, everybody's just out here being, like, even my school, I went online. It still cost $12,000 a year. And, like, I don't know. And I told myself I wasn't going to get into this whole thing, but, like...
See? You can't.
I can't.
You're like, once you start social justicing, you can't stop. That's what it is. It's like, you just do a little bit of social justice, next thing you know, you're on Tumblr, yelling at somebody.
Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in.
You find yourself getting on TikTok to yell at somebody who is talking about food in a way you don't like. That's what happens.
Because it's like, in order